Welcome to Chapter 6 of Starting a Successful Small Business, a course by Gary Johnson. Listen to the recording now and follow along with your book, or listen now and go to your book later for further reinforcement of the details. Let's join Gary now as he presents Chapter 6, Getting the Money and the Business Plan.
Chapter 6, Getting the Money and the Business Plan. Financing your business. First, a warning. Getting money for a small business is difficult, and it really is the first test of your business knowledge. You're competing against every other small business and startup for a limited pool of capital, and your competition is very, very hungry for that money, just like you. In this section, we will briefly describe different sources of money that you should consider. Some sources are more likely to pan out than others, and some sources are entirely inappropriate for what you want to do. In other words, expecting a venture capital firm to help you open a local sports bar is not likely. Borrowing money doesn't have to be difficult. Banks make money by lending money. However, the inexperience of many small business owners in financial matters often prompts banks to deny loan requests. Requesting a loan when you are not properly prepared sends a signal to your lender. The message is high risk. To be successful in obtaining a loan, you must be prepared and organized. You must be able to convince your lender that you are a good credit risk. Let's look at several sources of financing available for small business owners. The primary source of capital for most new businesses comes from savings and other forms of personal resources. While credit cards are often used to finance business needs, there may be better options available, even for very small loans. The most common source of funding, banks and credit unions, will provide a loan if you can show that your business proposal is sound. Borrowing and the loan application process will be covered in full later in this chapter. Venture capital firms. These firms help expanding companies grow in exchange for equity or partial ownership. Most venture capital firms are interested in investment projects requiring an investment of $250,000 to $1.5 million. Venture capital will also be covered in full later in this chapter. Friends and family. If you're like many startup business ventures, you will look to friends and families for some of the money to get your business started. This money allows you to buy whatever you needed to get started. Whether you have already done this or contemplating it, please keep two important ideals in mind as you look for this type of funding. First, do not sell stock. That's equity ownership at this point. Debt can and should be given whenever possible at the initial stages if that debt is not co-signed by you. But that is unlikely to happen. In the beginning, you will probably have to co-sign or need a loan to your business, even if the person giving you money is a friend or a relative. If you give stock or a partnership interest, there is another person who now has rights and powers to affect company decisions, even if the person holds only a minority interest. Besides, giving Uncle Herman 20% in exchange for $20,000 seems like a steal when your company is worth nothing. But after 7 years of your hard work and Uncle Herman's uninvolvement, how are you going to feel when you hand over 1/5 of whatever you have to sell your company for? If you absolutely have to give up stock, try to get some sort of option to buy it back in the future in your shareholders' agreement. Second, if you do get the money in the form of debt, treat such money like it was from a bank or some other outside lender. This means that you need to thoroughly document in terms of the loan and spell out the rights, duties, and powers of the parties involved. Do not attempt to finance your business on a handshake or on the back of a cocktail napkin. Every lawyer knows at least one horror story of clients who failed to properly document their financial relationships during the initial stages of the business. Again, treat the debt as real debt. That means you pay the payments on time, or if you can't, you agree to new payment terms with the lender. Other businesses with a connection to your business. Often there will be businesses in related industries which are not in competition with your business, but instead dependent on or interested in the area in which your startup is operating. These businesses could be potential customers or clients for your startup. Such businesses may be willing to help your startup get equipment and capital needed to take flight. Finders. Another source of finding money may be finders. People who inhabit the twilight rim of law and money, where the federal securities laws do not reach and even investment bankers fear to tread. These guys cannot negotiate any part of the financing terms. Instead, their only job is to introduce you to people with money who are willing to invest it. Naturally, the finders take a large chunk of the money they find for you, and they may request a piece of the company as well. The fees can range from 5 to 15% of the money they find for you, and this fee might have to be paid up front, regardless of whether they can get you the money. Obviously, most startups will not choose this source as a first method of financing. When dealing with this type of, quote, professional, make sure that you have everything in writing before you agree to anything. Invention promotion firms. If you're an inventor or your small business centers around a new invention, there are businesses out there that are willing to help fund the further development and promotion of inventions which have the promise of paying off in the future. These promotion businesses will do it all, from patent filings to raising capital when needed and marketing the product. However, understand that most of these invention firms will, many times, require an investment on your part. However, most never come up with viable financing. Make sure that you're extremely cautious about using this type of source of financing. Buyout funds. This is what people refer to when they talk about cashing in. Buyout funds purchase existing businesses with a steady, proven history of profits. Often the buyout funds are purchasing an entrepreneur's company built over a lifetime. Management shakeups are common when a buyout fund comes in. Buyout funds do not take on the risk of a venture capital, so they don't expect the same sort of return, but they do look for about 30 to 35% of their money. Direct public offering on the internet. Is this the future? Plainly, it is difficult for many reasons to find investors for smaller companies. Enter the internet. In 1995, Spring Street Brewing Company in New York City raised $1.6 million under Regulation A of the United States securities laws. The Securities and Exchange Commission responded by issuing new regulations to cover this. There are now firms that specialize in internet offerings and maintain bulletin boards for direct stock trading. SBA loan. SBA loan programs are generally intended to encourage longer-term small business financing, but actual loan maturities are based on the ability to repay, the purpose of the loan proceeds, and the useful life of the assets financed. However, maximum loan maturities have been established: 25 years for real estate, up to 10 years for equipment, and generally up to 7 years for working capital. Short-term loans are also available through the SBA to help businesses meet their short-term and cyclical working capital needs. There are two basic types of loans: short-term and long-term. Short-term has a maturity of up to 1 year. These include working capital loans, accounts receivable loans, and lines of credit. Long-term loans have maturities greater than 1 year, but usually less than 7 years. Real estate and certain types of equipment loans may have maturities up to 25 years. Trade creditor or equipment manufacturer. Companies from which you buy equipment or merchandise may also furnish capital to you in the form of extended credit. Manufacturers of store fixtures, cash registers, and industrial machinery frequently have financing plans under which you may buy on an installment basis and pay out of the future income. If goods are for resale, no security other than repossession rights of the unsold goods may be involved. Usually, cash discounts are quoted if a bill is paid within 10, 30, or 60 days. Minority Enterprise Small Business Investment Companies, or MESBIC. These companies are federally established and licensed to serve the small business that are owned totally by members of minority groups or economically or socially disadvantaged citizens. Bartering. Offering to exchange your service or product for services or products from other companies. Business credit cards. Although it is generally recommended that business use a checking account to pay expenses, sometimes credit cards can be used to conserve cash. Using your own personal credit card for business purposes is possible, although it isn't recommended unless it's the only way you can go, for it can create difficult accounting problems as well as carry a high rate of financing. Accounts receivable financing. Accounts receivable financing can take the form of pledging receivables as collateral to obtain a short-term loan. Customers as a source of funds. In some industries, potential purchasers of your service may be interested in offering financial help as you start or expand your business. They are interested because an additional supplier provides them with another source for a product or service they need. Accepting money from friends and family. It has never been easy to raise capital, especially for a small business if you're in the startup phase. If you can't finance your business out of your own pocket by maxing out your credit cards or taking out a second mortgage on your home, you'll have to seek funding from people you know and love you. This means approaching the 3 F's: family, friends, and fools for the funds. Let's look a little bit deeper. Before you accept financing from loved ones, heed these warnings. First, the good news. Friends and family members are more willing to invest in you because they love you. They're less likely to scrutinize every comma and semicolon of your business plan or to demand a high return on your investment. Now, the bad news. Raising money from family and friends creates personal and emotional issues that go beyond business judgment. If you borrow $10,000 from your Aunt Irma and fail to pay it back, you'll have to see Aunt Irma at every Thanksgiving dinner until she dies. Even if she is the forgiving sort, she will no doubt remind you about how you blew her casino funds, especially after that second glass of white Zinfandel, to tell the whole family about it over and over again. Aside from personal embarrassment, there are some real risks in taking money from friends and families. Friends and family members will inevitably say they are giving you money for your business, but rarely do they really mean to make you an outright gift in the legal sense. Because family investments are usually made in a very informal way, misunderstandings can occur about precisely what the friend or family member expects in return for your money. You may think it is a loan, which you will repay in time with interest. Your family, on the other hand, may think it's an investment for which they will receive stock or ownership interest in your business. Also, sad to say, money changes a lot of people, and not necessarily for the best. People who honestly intend to give you money when you're just getting started may be tempted later on to think they're entitled to a return on their investment when your hot new product hits the market and you're rolling in the dough. Even if your friend or family member doesn't change his or her mind about their gift, they can't be sure other people will see it the same way. If Aunt Irma gives you $10,000 and then dies the following month, you are no longer dealing with your loving Aunt Irma. You're now dealing with the executor of Aunt Irma's estate, who may be a greedy relative who sees the gift as an investment for which the estate is entitled to a substantial piece of your business, a local estate lawyer whose main purpose is to squeeze as many assets out of the estates as possible so as to maximize their fees, or someone even worse. When seeking money from friends and family, it's important to be as disciplined as you would be in dealing with a professional investor. Here are some basic rules. Treat them as if they were strangers. Forget for the moment that your investor is a friend. Make it at arm's length as you would deal with any other investor, and insist on the same sort of legal documentation you would prepare if your investor was a total stranger. If it's a loan, have your lawyer prepare a promissory note, an IOU, for the friend or family member, and don't offer less than a commercial interest rate, usually 2 to 4% above prime. Next, debt may actually be better than equity. If someone lends you money, you only have to pay it back with interest. They can't tell you how to run your company. If someone buys stock in your business, they are legally your business partner. Next, tie all payments to your cash flow. Try to avoid obligations with fixed repayment schedules. Consider instead cash flow obligations in which your investor will receive a percentage of your operating cash flow. And last, consider non-voting stock. If your friend or family member insists on buying stock in your company, try to make it non-voting so that they don't have the right to second guess your every decision. Introduction to commercial banking. How to borrow money. Some business persons can't not understand why a lending institution refused to lend them money. Others have no trouble getting funds but are surprised to find strings attached to their loans. Such owner-managers fail to realize that banks and other lenders have to operate by certain principles, just as all other types of businesses. This section discusses the following fundamentals of borrowing: creditworthiness, kinds of loans, amount of money needed, collateral, loan restrictions and limitation, and the loan application process. Inexperience with borrowing procedures often creates resentment and bitterness. "I'll never trade here again," says Bill Smith when his bank refused to grant him a loan. "I'd like to let you have it, Bill," the banker said, "but your firm isn't earning enough money to meet your current obligations." Mr. Smith was unaware of a vital financial fact. Lending institutions have to be certain that the borrower's business can repay the loan. Tom Jones lost his temper when the bank refused him a loan because he did not know what kind or how much money he needed. "We hesitate to lend," the banker said, "to business owners with such vague ideas of what and how much they need." John Williams' case was somewhat different. He didn't explode until after he got the loan. When the papers were ready to sign, he realized that the loan agreement put certain limitations on his business activities. "You can't dictate to me," he said, and walked out of the bank. What he didn't realize was that the limitations were for his good as well as for the bank's protection. Knowledge of the financial facts of business life could have saved all three the embarrassment of losing their tempers. Even more important, such information would have helped them to borrow money at a time when their business needed it badly. This section is designed to give the highlights of what is involved in sound business borrowing. It should be helpful to those who have little or no experience with borrowing. More experienced owner-managers should find it useful in reevaluating their borrowing operation. First of all, is your firm credit worthy? The ability to obtain money when you need it is as necessary to the operation of your business as is a good location or the right equipment, reliable sources of supplies and materials, or an adequate labor force. Before a bank or any other lending agency will lend you money, the loan officer must feel satisfied with the answers to the 5 following questions. 1. What sort of person are you? The character of the borrower comes first. Next is your ability to manage your business. 2. What are you going to do with the money? The answer to this question will determine the type of loan, short or long term. 3. When and how do you plan to pay it back? Your banker's judgment of your business ability and the type of loan will be a deciding factor in the answer to these questions. Number 4, is the cushion in the loan large enough? In other words, does the amount requested make suitable allowance for unexpected development? The banker decides this question on the basis of your financial statement, which sets forth the condition of your business and on the collateral pledged. And number 5, what is the outlook for business in general and for your business particularly? Adequate financial data is a must. The banker wants to make loans to businesses which are solvent, profitable, and growing. The 2 basic financial statements used to determine these conditions are the balance sheet and the profit and loss statement, as we discussed in Chapter 3. The former is the major yardstick for the solvency and latter for profits. In interviewing loan applicants and studying their records, the banker is especially interested in the following facts and figures. Are the books and records up to date and in good condition? What is the condition of accounts payable or notes payable? What are the salaries of the owner-manager and other company officers? Are all taxes being paid currently? What is the order backlog? What is the insurance coverage? And how does your business compare to the industry you're in? Remember the financial and industry ratios we talked about in Chapter 3. Other things they may want to consider: accounts receivable. Are there indications that some of the accounts receivable have already been pledged to another creditor? What is the accounts receivable turnover? How quickly do you collect your money? Inventory. Is merchandise in good shape? How much raw material is on hand? How much is work in process? Is there any obsolete inventory? Fixed assets. What is the type, age, and condition of your equipment? What are your depreciation policies? What are your future acquisition plans? All right. What kind of money? Well, when you set out to borrow money for your firm, it's important to know the kind of money you need. There are 3 basic types of money: short-term, long-term money, and equity capital. Keep in mind that the purpose for which your funds are being used is an important factor in deciding the kind of money needed. But even so, deciding what kind of money to use is not always easy. Keep in mind that a very important distinction between the types of money is the source of repayment. Generally, short-term loans are repaid from the liquidation of current assets: cash, accounts receivable, inventory. Long-term loans are usually paid from future earnings. You can use short-term bank loans for purposes such as financing accounts receivable for, say, 30 to 60 days. Or you can use them for the purposes that take longer to pay off, such as building a seasonal inventory for a period of 5 to 6 months. Long-term borrowing provides money you plan to pay back over a relatively long period of time. Some people break it down to 2 forms: intermediate, loans between 1 and 5 years, and long-term, those over 5 years. Equity capital. Some people confuse borrowing and equity or investment capital. There's a big difference. You don't have to repay equity capital. It is the money you get by selling a part interest in your business or money that you have directly invested into your business. The amount of money you need to borrow depends on the purpose for which you need funds. Figuring the amount of money required for business construction, conversion, or expansion, term loans, or equity capital is relatively easy. Equipment manufacturers, architects, and builders will readily supply you with the costs. On the other hand, the amount of working capital you need depends upon the type of business you're in. While a rule of thumb ratios may be helpful as a starting point, a detailed projection of sources and uses of fund, which we cover in your business plan, over some future period of time, usually 12 months, is a better approach. To plan your working capital requirements, it's important to know the cash flow with which your business will generate. This involves simply a consideration of all elements of cash receipts and disbursements. These elements are listed in the profit and loss statement, which has been adapted to show cash flow. What kind of collateral? Sometimes your signature is the only security the bank needs. At other times, the bank requires additional assurances that the money will be repaid. When asking for money from a bank in an amount above, say, $10,000, you're going to have to provide the bank with collateral for the debt. If the loan required cannot be justified by the borrower's financial statements alone, a pledge of security is required to bridge the gap. The types of security are endorsers, co-makers, assignments of leases, mortgages, real estate, accounts receivable, savings accounts, life insurance policies, and stocks and bonds, each of which are detailed in pages 613 through 615. What are the lender rules? Lending institutions are not interested in loan repayments. They are interested in borrowers with healthy, profit-making businesses. Therefore, whether or not collateral is required for a loan, they set loan limitation and restrictions to protect themselves against unnecessary risks and against poor management practices. Often, some owner-managers consider loan limitations a burden, yet others feel that such limitation also offer an opportunity for improving their management techniques. The kinds of limitations which an owner-manager finds set upon the company depends to a great extent on the company. If the company is a good risk, only minimum limitations. A poor risk, of course, is different. Look now for a few minutes at the type of limitations and restrictions which the lender may set. Limitations which you will usually run into when you borrow money: repayment terms, pledging or the use of security, and periodic reporting. A loan agreement, as you may already know, is a tailor-made document covering or referring to all the terms and conditions of the loan. With it, the lender does two things: protects position as a creditor and assures repayment according to the terms. The lender reasons that the borrower's business should generate enough funds to repay the loan while taking care of other needs. Covenants, negative and positive. The actual restrictions in a loan agreement come under a section known as covenants. Negative covenants are things which the borrower may not do without approval from the lender. Some examples are further additions to the borrower's total debt, non-pledge to others of the borrower's assets, and issuance of dividends in excess of the terms of the loan agreement. On the other hand, positive covenants spell out things which the borrower must do. Some examples are maintenance of a minimum net working capital, carrying of adequate insurance, repaying the loan according to the terms agreements, and supplying the lender with financial statements and reports. The loan application process. Now that you've read about the various aspects of the lending process and are ready to apply for a loan, banks and other private lending institutions require a loan application on which you list details about your business. The bank officer considers the borrower's debt-paying record to suppliers, banks, home mortgagors, and other creditors, the ratio of the borrower's debt to the net worth of the business, past earnings of the company, the value and conditions of the collateral. You can negotiate. Next time you go to borrow money, thrash out the lending terms before you sign. It is good practice no matter how badly you need the money. Ask to see the papers in advance of the loan closing. Legitimate lenders are glad to cooperate. Chances are that the lender may give some on the terms. Keep in mind that while you're mulling over the terms, you may want to get the advice of your associates and outside advisors. After the loan approval, once you get a loan, you can expect the bankers to be looking over your shoulder at all times. Do not try to fight it. Do not try to enjoy it. Just politely deal with it. And keep in mind that your bankers have the ability to shut you down by calling your loans. After making a loan to a company or business, banks generally keep an eye on the following list of formal or informal factors to gauge how well the borrower is doing. Payments made on time. Willingness to provide quarterly and annual financial statements, bank balances, management turnover, personal finances of the owners, inventory turnover, lawsuits involving the company, and debt-to-equity ratio. On page 618 and 619, we have some common business and accounting terms used with your loans. Look at those in more detail. Dealing with bankers. When you deal with your banker, sell yourself. Whether or not you need a bank loan, make it a practice to visit your banker at least once a year. Openly discuss your plans and difficulties. It is the bank's business not to betray a confidence. Before you apply for a loan, get a copy of your credit report. Then you can verify its accuracy and be prepared to explain any errors. As approximately 25% of credit reports are inaccurate, Murphy's Law suggests that yours may well be one of them. Remember, before a banker will make a loan, he or she must have satisfactory answer to the questions such as, what sort of person are you? What will you do with the money? When and how will you pay it back? Does the amount requested allow for unexpected developments? And what is the outlook for you or your line of business and business in general? If at all possible, try to talk with the senior vice president, branch manager, or even the president if it's at a smaller bank. A lower rung person will report to the actual decision maker, who will then ask you to go through it all over again with him, or worse, they will simply look at the numbers given in the loan application without looking at them any further or proceeding any further. When you first approach a bank, ask who makes this decision. Then ask to meet with that person. Remember that you need to be diplomatic in asking to speak with a boss. The lower level bank employees do not like to be reminded that they are lower level. But regardless of who you talk to, there are some documents that you want to have to give to the bank. Letters of reference, both business and personal. Personal and financial statements, credit reports, business plan for the company, legal documentation, such as articles of resolution, articles of incorporation, partnership agreements, and documentation of all other outstanding loans. Then you can expect the equivalent of a strip search of your financial past. The bankers will invariably ask you for more information and probe further into whatever information you provide them. How to write a loan proposal. Approval of your loan request depends on how well you present yourself, your business, and your financial needs to the lender. Remember, lenders want to make loans, but they must make loans that they know will be repaid. General information that you'll need. Your business name, the names of the principal, the social security number of each principal, and business address. Purpose of the loan. Exactly what will the loan be used for and why is it needed? Amount required. A business description. The history and nature of the business, details of what kind of business it is, its age, number of employees and current business assets, ownership structure, details of your company's legal structure. Is it a sole proprietorship, a partnership, a corporation, LLC, and who are the owners? Management profile. Develop a short statement on each principal in your business. Provide background, education, experience, skills, and accomplishments of each. Market information. Clearly define your company's products as well as your markets. Identify your competition and explain how your business competes in the marketplace. Profile your customers and explain how your business can satisfy their needs. Financial information. Financial statements, balance sheets, and income statements for the past 3 years. If you're starting out, provide a projected balance sheet and income statement. Personal financial statements on yourself and the other major owners of the business. Collateral you would be willing to pledge as security for the loan. How your loan request will be reviewed. The lender is primarily concerned about repayment. To help determine this ability, many loan officers will order a copy of your business credit report from a credit reporting agency. Therefore, you should work with these agencies to help them present an accurate picture of your business. Using the credit report and the information you have provided, the lending officer will consider the following issues. Have you invested savings or personal equity in your business totaling at least 25 to 50% of the loan you're requesting? Do you have a sound record of credit worthiness? Do you have sufficient experience and training? Have you prepared a loan proposal and business plan that demonstrates your understanding of and a commitment to the success of the business? And does your business have sufficient cash flow to make monthly payments? How to get a yes from your banker. To get your loan approved, arm yourself with answers to the most common objections. Proper preparation often determines whether your bank gives you a yes or a no answer when you apply for a loan. And one of the best ways to prepare is to be ready to answer objections. Here are the 5 most commonly cited reasons by bankers when they reject a loan, followed by some suggestions for ways to respond to each reason for denial. 1. I don't know enough about your business, says the banker. There are a couple of key steps you can take to ensure that the loan officer is properly informed. First, put together a business plan. Even if your company isn't a startup, the existence of a business plan will help convince the banker that you have credibility as an owner. Bankers look for quality, not quantity, in a business plan. Second, Be prepared to supply business credit references and personal credit history. The owner's track record in repaying past business and personal obligations in a timely manner is vital in the consideration of a request for a small business loan. Objection number 2. You haven't clearly stated why you need the money. When a banker asks, how much would you like to borrow, don't reply with, how much will you lend me? Before you go to the bank, perform an in-depth analysis of your borrowing needs and take that information with you when you go to apply for a loan. Objection number 3. Your numbers don't support the loan request. If your business has been only marginally profitable or even losing money, there's still hope, but it won't be easy. Bankers are trained to make loan decisions based primarily on a company's ability to generate sufficient cash flow through consistent profitability. The key is to accentuate the positive. If you've been in business for 5 years and have lost money only in the past year or so, emphasize your success during the first 4 years and why you believe your profit problems are only temporary. If you have lost money, you need to know the reason for the loss. The downturn may be caused by the economy, health, or labor problems. The banker will want to know what changes the owner will make to fix the problem. Objection number 4. You don't have enough collateral. Small business owners complain that lenders lack an adequate understanding of the market value of assets such as machinery and inventory. And they're right. Bankers aren't experts on most of the collateral against which they lend. Don't expect the bank to lend dollar for dollar against the collateral given, no matter what is being pledged. Banks have certain guidelines they follow in setting loan to collateral value ratios. For example, banks generally lend no more than 80 to 90% of the value of vehicle or real estate, 70 to 80% of a company's machinery and equipment and accounts receivable, and 40 to 60% of inventory. You may have personal assets such as debt-free automobiles, bank certificate deposits, stocks, or real estates that could be used to secure the loan. And number 5, your business plan does not support the loan on its own. Most banks won't lend to any business without personal guarantee from the owner or owners. The purpose of a guarantee is to provide a secondary repayment source for the loan in case the small business is unable to pay. Banks look at the small business owner and the small business as being one and the same. Offering a personal guarantee up front demonstrates a full commitment to your venture that will enhance your chances for loan approval. Applying for a small business loan can be a headache. However, if you're prepared to answer these common objections from bankers, you will improve the chances of obtaining the financing you need. Ways to find out if a bank is right for you. If there's a list out there for entrepreneurial frustration, selecting the right bank is somewhere near the top for good reason. Not all banks make it a point to reach out to small businesses. So, where do you look? What do you look for? Try these 8 secrets to success. Meet the commercial lenders or relationship managers you might be working with. Large banks are often divided into 2 sections, commercial banking and retail banking. Retail banking usually focuses on personal accounts. Commercial banking is often segmented into 3 parts: small business, mid-market, and large business. Occasionally, large banks will attach their small business lending unit to the retail banking division. The point? Find out what bank department best fits your company's needs. Then you're ready to meet with the right people. Find out if the bank classifies your industry as an undesirable. This isn't common knowledge among a bank staff. You'll have to get it directly from the small business banker. He or she may feel uncomfortable with the subject matter. So make it easy by saying something like, in your bank's loan policy manual, in the section titled Undesirable Loans, is my industry listed. The bank must understand your industry, no exceptions. Every industry has certain characteristics not commonly understood. When bankers don't understand how an industry operates, they don't understand how they'll be repaid. And when they don't understand how they'll be repaid, they'll decline your loan requests. Make sure your bank is small enough. Only then will a banker take time to spell out the requirements. You should be able to ask questions and get answers about loan to cost, cash coverage ratios, and how they calculate the debt-to-income ratio of entrepreneurs. Determine if the bank is large enough to accommodate your needs. Every bank has a legal lending limit based on its equity. So a bank with less than $100 million in assets may not be able to accommodate a small manufacturer with $5 to $10 million in sales. Make sure loan requests for your business are underwritten locally. Here's why. Let's say a business is in Jacksonville, Florida, delivers its loan application to the local branch. Several days later, it receives a letter of decline in the mail. When the business owner later questions the branch manager, he or she learns that all business loans are actually processed in Tampa, Florida, and that there's no one there to answer questions. Make sure that the bank must be looking for smaller customers. These days, a growing number of niche banks aim to deal exclusively with small businesses. It also helps to ask around and find out which banks other entrepreneurs are using. Make sure you start with a bank that handles your deposit. But if it turns out not to be friendly to your business, it's time to move on. Some specific top small business lenders. Starting in the appendix on page A6 at the back of the chapter, we've listed some specific small business lending sources. This comes from a website, and you might want to write this down, although it's listed on page 625. It's www.entrepreneur.com/best banks. It lists, in most cases, the name of the bank, the phone number, a contact, the number of loans that they process in a given year's period of time on the average, and a website for contacting that specific bank. We also have listed SBA microloan intermediaries. These, in many cases, are nonprofit organizations that have been set up to specifically put small business owners in touch with individuals and businesses that make small business loans. Also listed in the appendix are SBA preferred and certified lenders. The most active and expert lenders qualify for the SBA's certified and preferred lenders program. Preferred lenders are chosen from among the SBA's best lenders and enjoy full delegation of lending authority, which means that if they say the loan's going through, it's almost sure that it will be going through. This authority must be renewed at least every 2 years, and the lender's portfolio is examined by the SBA periodically. Certified lenders are those lenders that have been heavily involved in regular SBA loan guarantee processing and meet certain other criteria. They receive a partial delegation and are given a 3-day turnaround on their applications. This information, although we've listed a substantial number of it, can be found at the SBA's website, which we have listed on in numerous occasions. How to raise venture capital money. For a select few small business owners, this may be an important area, but for most, 98% plus, venture capital, for many reasons, is not a reality. Venture capital financing is a method used for raising money, but less popular than borrowing. Venture capital firms like banks supply you with funds necessary to operate your business, but they do it differently. Banks are creditors. They expect you to repay the borrowed money. Venture capital firms are owners. They hold stock in your company, adding their invested capital to its equity base. While banks may concentrate on cash flow, venture capital firms invest for long-term capital. Commonly, these firms look for their investment to appreciate 3 to 5 times in 5 to 7 years. One way of explaining the different ways in which banks and venture capital firms evaluate a small business seeking funds is banks look at the immediate future but are most heavily influenced by the past. Venture capital look to its longer run future. What venture capital firms look for? Banks are creditors. They're interested in the product, market position of the company for assurance that this product or service can provide steady sales and generate sufficient cash flow to repay the loan. They look at projections to be certain that owner-managers have done their homework. Venture capital firms are owners. They hold stock in the company, adding their invested capital to your equity base. Therefore, they examine existing or planned products or services and the potential markets for them with extreme care. They invest only in firms they believe can rapidly increase sales and generate substantial profits. The reason for this is that venture capital firms invest for long-term capital, not for interest income. A common estimate is that they look for 3 to 5 times their investment in 5 to 7 years. Size of the venture proposal. Most venture capital firms are interested in investment projects requiring an investment of $250,000 to $1.5 million. Projects requiring under $250,000 are generally of limited interest because of the high cost of investigation and administration. Some venture capital firms will consider smaller proposals if the investment is intriguing enough. The typical venture capital firm receives 400 proposals a year. 90% of these will be rejected quickly because they don't fit the geographical, technical, or market area policies of the firm. The remaining 10% will be carefully investigated. These investigations are expensive. Firms may hire consultants to evaluate the product, particularly when it is a result of an innovation or is technologically complex. These preliminary investigations may cost between $2,000 and $3,000 per company investigated, up to $10,000 to $15,000. Then, second investigations, more thorough and more expensive than the first, reduce the number of proposals under consideration to only 3 or 4. Eventually, the firm invests in 1 or 2, which means out of 400 proposals, there's less than a 0.5% chance of being selected for venture capital financing. Most venture capital firms' investment interest is limited to projects proposed by companies with some operating history, even though they may not have yet shown a profit. Companies that are just starting or that have serious financial difficulties may interest some venture capitalists if the potential for significant gain over the long run can be identified. Ownership. Venture capital financing is not inexpensive for the owners of a small business. The partners of the venture firm buy a portion of the business equity in exchange for their investment. The percentage of equity varies, of course, and depends on the amount of money provided. The percentage of equity varies, of course, and depends on the amount of money provided, the success and worth of the business, and the anticipated investment return. It can range from perhaps 10% in the case of established, profitable company to as much as 80 to 90% for beginning or financially troubled firms. Control. Control is a much simpler issue to resolve. Unlike the division of ownership over which the venture capital firm and management are likely to disagree, control is an issue which they have a common interest. While it is understandable that the management of a small company will have some anxiety in this area, the partners of a venture firm have little interest in assuming control of the business. They have neither the technical nor managerial personnel to run a number of small businesses in diverse industries. They much prefer to leave operating control to the existing management. They will, however, generally ask that at least one partner be made a director of the company. The business plan. A business plan is a roadmap of your small business venture. Imagine flying into a strange city, renting a car, and trying to find your way around without a map. You might eventually reach your destination, but not without making some detours along the way. This is exactly what you're doing in your business if you don't have a business plan. It's your roadmap to business success, and without one, you're in danger of missing the on-ramp. To take the ramp analogy a little further, your plan can be as simple as a hand-drawn map getting you from A to B, or an atlas with detailed listings of all the points of interest along the way. The point is, if you're thinking of starting your own business, taking the time to create a plan will help you focus on the issues necessary for your success. And if your venture is already in operation, the plan can keep you focused and remind you of what's important when you find yourself sidetracked. When should a business plan be used? To make crucial startup decisions, to reassure lenders or backers, to measure operational progress, to test planning assumptions as a basis for adjusting your forecasts, to anticipate ongoing capital or cash requirements, and as a benchmark for good operational management. A good business plan defines your venture, describes your product and services, depicts your market and details how you plan to do it, also pinpoints where you plan to do business and why, and profiles the skills and experiences that key management brings to the table. Your business plan surveys the business environment, shows you how the business fits with the existing marketplace, identifies your market needs and how you will fill them, describes how you will be different from the competition, also estimates your financials, specifies your fixed costs and other expenses, lists assets and funding sources, projects revenue and cash flows, and points out the risk. Writing your business plan is meant to be thought-provoking, but it need not be overwhelmingly difficult. Even if you also need to obtain funding, you will have to present a professionally written plan. The following outline of a typical business plan can serve as a guide. You can adapt it to your own specific business. Breaking down the plan into several components helps make drafting it a more manageable task. First, we have an introduction, known as an executive summary. Then the company plan, which includes operations and a management plan, your marketing plan, your financial plan, and supporting documentation. So let's go over each of these. The introduction. The lead-in introductory section of a well-organized business plan should tell people who you are, and what you want. It can be used to grab a prospect's attention, impress them that you have what it takes to be successful, and successfully cater to their needs. Although a business plan is often used as a sales tool, be careful not to sound too much like a salesman. Don't use flowery words to sell your business. Let your ideals, research, and facts do the persuading. Make your reader see the value of your plan without hitting them over the head with it or trying to pull the wool over their eyes. Following are possible parts of this introductory section. 1, a cover sheet. 2, table of contents. 3, an executive summary. And 4, a fact sheet. Your cover sheet should be simple, kept to a single page, and most importantly, informative at a glance. The information it contains can be placed anywhere on the page as long as it looks good and is in logical order. Your cover sheet should also encourage readership and attract the attention of the reader. Your table of contents should be limited to 1 page. When designing your table of contents, keep in mind that many readers have hot buttons. They like to read about cash flow, marketing strategies, or some other narrow interest. Make it easy for them to find this information. Executive summary. The purpose of an executive summary is to increase an investor's interest and to explain the main highlights of your business plan. It is the heart of your business proposal and often the only part that gets read. It is a mini introduction to your company in which you try and capture the entire essence of your business in 1 or 2 pages, using all the persuasion and excitement building tactics you can. When writing your business plan, it's often a good idea to write your executive summary last when all financial data is available. Business overview. If your executive summary is very short, less than a page, and very straightforward, it might be more effectively entitled a business overview. Specifically, you can use a business overview to summarize or touch upon key issues in your business plan and what you fundamentally want to accomplish by having someone read your business plan. Statement of purpose. Now we're under our executive summary now. A statement of purpose is very similar to a business overview, except that it is usually used when the purpose of your business plan is very specific. Example, if you want your readers to invest in your company, buy shares or give you a loan, become a partner, or extend you an operating line of credit, in the statement of purpose are some key areas you should address: who you are and what you sell, what your main objectives are, how and why your business will be successful. If you need a loan, explain how much you'll need, why you need it, and what specifically you plan to do with it, and how you plan to repay your loan. Product or service. Define your product or service. Do not write, the business plan is going to sell food. Be precise. An example, Holly's Diner will be a restaurant serving breakfast and lunch to students near Texas Tech University in Lubbock. Breakfast will consist of coffee, bacon, and egg dishes, waffles, and breakfast tacos. Lunch will be hamburgers, fried chicken, tacos, and a daily blue plate special, such as meatloaf and a choice of vegetables. In addition to 8 counter seats and 4 booths, a significant portion of sales will be to-go orders that should be ready for customers to take within 2 minutes. In the rush periods of 7 to 9 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., many of these dishes will be prepared in advance, although preferably not more than 15 minutes before the sale. As students generally have a limited budget, prices will be modest, breakfast for around $2 and lunch for around $4. Whether you're selling soup or software, define what it is that you do. Focus here makes the writing of the rest of the plan simple. Other suggested executive summary topics: benefits of your product or service, bottom line financial figures, in other words, what will the profit be after the second year, calculated risk involved, the upside and the downside, company goals and philosophies, competitive pressures, talk about your competition and how you plan to compete or beat them, funds required, talk about the security offered to investors, plans for repayment, highlights of your marketing plan, historical perspectives of your business. Talk about how your business came to be and how long it has lasted. Key products or services, important facts and figures that may be of interest to your readers. Key suppliers, location of business and zoning laws, other businesses you own. Describe all your existing or proposed businesses, including dates of formation and proposed future operations, if any. Significant trends. Talk about technology, industry changes and perceptions, as well as significant buying trends. Make assumptions on where you fit into some of these large-scale trends. And most importantly, an investor's main concern, what's in it for them. Section 2, the company plan. In this section, the first major section of your business plan, you'll need to cover all the details of your business. Address as many of the following topics as they relate to your business in an order that seems logical to you. Be prepared to back up statements and justify any projections made with data in the supporting documentation section. Following are possible parts of the company section: a company description, more detail, merchandising plan, operating plan, and organizational plan. When describing your company, you'll have to restrain yourself from trying to make it sound bigger or better than it really is. A company description must be factual, not necessarily inspirational. Don't use this section to try and generate good public relations. List accomplishments, the building zones, the company assets, company goals and objectives. State the goals and objectives of your business clearly, including how they will be reached, time limits if applicable, and proof that they can be reached. Short-term goals and objectives under a year should usually include targeted gross sales, profit margins, sales of certain products, market share, new product introduction, and when you hope to establish credibility within the marketplace. Long-term goals and objectives, those over a year. Expected return on investment, future research and development, future business net worth after so many years' time. Company history. Provide a background of your company and a description of any other venture in which individuals on your team or yourself have been involved. Company philosophy. Describe how your company wishes to be perceived. Describe what its present image or desired image of the future will be. Try and capture the spirit of the company without sounding overly dramatic. Contracts in force. List contracts and agreements in force, including management contracts, shareholder or partnership agreements, franchise or service agreements, and service contracts. Legal structure. Tell what the legal structure of company is, as well as any special reasons for choosing that structure. If you plan to change your legal structure sometime in the future, explain why you would change. If you're looking to go from a sole proprietorship to a limited liability company, let your business audience know when and how much it's going to cost to do those things. Depending on whether you're a partnership, proprietorship, or corporation, include a copy of your business license, partnership agreement, or incorporation. Location of the business. Describe your location and why it was chosen. More specifically, describe its cost, the rent, whether it's leased or owned, zoning restrictions, growth, size, sales floor space, the neighborhood, renovations needed, transportation facilities, parking facilities, unique site features, other businesses in the areas, and any other outstanding reasons for choosing that location. Compare these facts with those of alternate sites. If you're going to begin to business out of your home, cite the reasons, advantages, and disadvantages for doing that. You may also want to include photos or drawings of the location in the supporting documents section. If your location is important to your marketing plan, chosen primarily because of its proximity to your target market or ease of market access, you might want to focus on it in your marketing plan section rather than here. Merchandising plan. That's a sales plan. It describes what items you will sell or produce and what services you will provide. Merchandising plans also make projections based on estimated sales to determine the amount of inventory you will need to control purchases. It also describes and compares the prices, qualities, and credit terms of suppliers, who you have found, and who may be assisting you in your startup. Description of products sold and services offered. Under this heading, provide a description of your product and services with an assessment of their strengths and weaknesses and marketability. If you have both a product and a service that work together to benefit your customers, such as a warranty service, make sure you mention this here. Also, indicate the features and benefits that both you and the competition provide, the feature and benefits that some of the competition provide, and the features and benefits that only your product and service provides. Future products and services. List and describe what kinds of future products and services you plan to provide. Idea feasibility. Identify the product or services you plan to sell, and most important, what human need it satisfies. Also describe whether this need is presently unfulfilled, where the demand for your product or services can be easily influenced by advertising, and at what extent your product or service will be entering a market in which demand already exceeds supply. Proprietary and exclusive rights obtained. Discuss and list in detail any proprietary rights, patents, copyrights, trademarks, and industrial designs your company owns. Suppliers. Describe where you get your inventory or raw materials from, as well as their buying terms, volume discount policies, and delivery policies and like. Discuss and list the names and addresses of key suppliers. Operating plan. This section is usually a one-page section covering accounting procedures, legal procedures, inventory control, computer systems to be used, opening dates, purchasing plans, site location, how capital intensive is your business, and is its success solely dependent on you. Organization management plan. An organizational plan helps you delegate work, responsibility, and authority. It describes who runs your company, controls day-to-day operations, influences decisions, and more specifically, who does all the work. Perhaps it's going to be you. But if it is, describe in the future when or if you intend to bring on employees and their specific duties. This section covers your board of directors, contract and temporary help resources available, management team, manpower plan, and professional resources available. Provide brief management biographies of key personnel and owners, their ages, educational background, and business experience. The marketing plan. In this section, the third major section of your business plan, you'll need to cover all the details of your marketing plan. Your marketing plan should show who your market is, who your competitors are, what setups you will take to open up new markets, and a summary of how you plan to combine all the above activities. These questions are answered in four major sections: market description, competition analysis, selling strategies, and marketing approach. Market description. This is a detailed description of your target markets, followed by an analysis of the trends and conditions of your marketplace, as well as your own target markets and how these will affect the outcome and profitability of your business. Analyze the market is simply gathering as many facts as you can about potential customers to determine the demand of your product and service. And we have previously covered this in the section on marketing research. Your market description should include market and industry needs, national and local economic trends, problems or needs in the marketplace that you will meet, target market description, target market share. What percentage of total shares in your market area do you expect to obtain? Competition analysis. No marketing plan is complete without a detailed description of your competition and how they will affect your overall marketing strategy. First, you must describe them and show how you plan to beat them. Competitor descriptions, competitive position. Indicate how you plan to beat the competition, usually by making a comparison of strengths and weaknesses and how in the end you come out on top. Research indirect competition. For example, an arcade may find competition from a bowling alley or pool hall. Selling strategies. Lack of a selling or marketing strategy is a serious weakness. You must prove that you have given the marketing of your product or service a lot of thought by describing the advertising, the media selection, as well as expected cost and impact. In other words, are you going to be advertising in the newspaper, direct mail, by referrals only? Any unique promotional activities no one else is doing, and how your advertising will be tailored to your target market. Your credit policy, your customer service plan, your distribution plan, your market testing methods, packaging and product design, past marketing methods, your pricing policies, service and product mix, timing of your market entry, and warranty policies. One final area of your marketing plan that deserves special attention is a summary description of your marketing approach. In short, your marketing approach describes how you ultimately plan to satisfy the needs of your target market by combining your market research, competitive analysis, and marketing strategy. It acts like a mission statement for your marketing plan. Your marketing approach should focus on the needs of the customers, not product. All company policies and activities should be aimed at satisfying customer needs. And next, focus on profit, not sales volume. Profitable sales volume is a better company goal than high sales volume. Next section of your business plan, the financial plan. In this section, you'll need to cover all the details of your financial plan. In general, this means showing your past, current, and projected and actual financial needs, as well as preparing both pro forma, that's just projected, and actual financial statements. What will you need? A capitalization plan, which shows your financial needs. Use of funds, where your money's coming from and where it's going to. Pro forma, or projected financial statements. Business financial history, risk assessment, and a closing statement. Capitalization plan includes the capital required, all capital requirements, startup and operating. Capital sources. This describes how much capital you have available to capitalize your business, to invest, and the sources of these funds. More specifically, it details the amount of your initial investments and the investment of others or debt of others to fund your company. Loan requirements. State the amount of loan required, if any. Collateral offered. List all collateral, assets, and possessions to be offered as a loan security. Credit rating. If you're asking for a loan, you may want to outline your personal history at repaying debts. To do this accurately, again, purchase a copy of your personal credit record from a local credit bureau. Recent and previous financing. List present and previous financing, including terms, loans, outstanding balances. A repayment schedule. Write a statement indicating how the loan funds are to be repaid, including repayment sources and time required. Copies of cash flow schedules, budgets, and other appropriate information. Type of capital required. There are 3 basic types. We've mentioned them before: working capital, growth capital, and equity capital. And again, a summary of financial needs. This is a brief outline, usually in the form of a chart, indicating why you're applying for a loan and how much you need. On page 639, we have the details of some of the various statements that you need to include in your business plan, and I'll just briefly cover those. Use of fund statements, that's where your money's coming from and where it's going to. Pro forma statements, projected. These include a cash flow statement, a 12-month income projection statement, 3-year income projection statement, break-even analysis, and pro forma balance sheet. Cash flow statements, we've listed that at the end of this chapter. 12-month income statement. We show you examples on that on page 331 and 662. 3-year income projection statement, which just is by year but not by month. Break-even analysis. We covered that with you in Chapter 3, approximately pages 340 and 341. A pro forma balance sheet. This lists your assets and liabilities. We covered that on page 330. Also covered in Chapter 6, page 64. Risk assessment. You want to have a quick, brief risk assessment. What does that include? An analysis of your competitors, contingency plans, insurance plan, and risk management plan. Identify and analyze any events that may cause losses to your companies. Some supporting documents you may want to include: contracts, credit reports, income tax returns, legal documents, lease agreements, letters of reference, personal financial statement, personal resumes of key individuals and references. Other documents listed on page 644 may be important, including things like cash and bank statements, accounts receivable summaries, list of fixed assets, keeping your plan up to date. The best made business plan gets out of date because conditions change. Sometimes it changes within your company. For example, a new idea can sweep the country in 6 months and die overnight. In order to adjust a business plan to account for its changes, an owner-manager must be alert to the changes that come about in your company, check your plan against these changes, and determine what revisions, if any, are needed. On page 6-46, we list the 15 biggest mistakes in writing your business plan. I would suggest you carefully look at those. And on page 648, myths and realities of business plans, there are some important subjects. I would suggest that you look at each one of these and see how they could apply to your specific situation. On page 651, there is a sample business plan for Michael's Business Center. It has all the parts that we have put together for you: an executive summary, a company plan, a marketing plan, operations, a financial section, and risks and conclusions. And again, I strongly suggest you look at this in detail and compare it back to Chapter 6 as you go through putting your business plan together. In summary, we've covered a tremendous amount of information in your Starting a Small Business course. We've covered what it takes to start a small business, why companies fail and how you can succeed. We've covered choosing the right business for you, finding the real opportunities, considering your personality type, starting from scratch, purchasing an existing business, and investing in a franchise. We've talked about working from home. We've talked about the feasibility of your business, the market analysis, the cost analysis, the feasibility analysis, and determining your break-even point. We've talked about where to locate your business, whether you're going to do it from home or from an outside location. We've talked about what is in a name. We've also gone over how to buy the furniture and fixtures and details of your business. We've talked about getting the records together, the legal structure of your business, the patents and trademarks, copyrights, finding the right consultants, finding and keeping good employees. We've also talked in this last chapter about raising capital and how to put together your business plan. However, the most important part of this program is not your books, is not the audio portion, is not even the class itself. The most important part of this program is your ability to apply that information into the future. The ongoing continued support that you have from your instructor and the team of people who have brought this program to you. We have given you phone numbers, email addresses that you can contact us individually. Contact us. Let us know how we can assist you in the future. And again, the very best luck with your small business operation.
This concludes Chapter 6, Getting the Money and the Business Plan. You may wish to review this material many times as its content is very concise. Go back and listen to all of the chapters, study the material, listen to it again until you fully absorbed its content and applied it to your business. Continue these applications and you will find yourself a successful business owner.